Hi, everyone. Welcome to Being Transfigured. My name is Sharon, and thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. So, today I've got my amazing friends. These two are from Virginia in the States. Guys, if you want to know anything about marriage, you need to follow these guys after this podcast because they're going to drop some gems. I know they're going to drop some gems. So I just wanted to bring them on here just to talk about their marriage. And, we're just going to talk as the Holy Spirit leads. And without further ado, let's bring them in and let them introduce themselves. Hey, guys.
Hey
Hey,
girl, how are
Sharon.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I think that's the theme of what we've been saying. Is just we're excited.
I think we said that a million times already. Well, my name is Amy, and this is my husband Apollo, and we are Mending Eden, and we have a marriage ministry where we help couples just get under alignment under God and with one another. Yeah, that's what we've been doing for a while now.
Yeah. And for me, it's maintaining the patience, right, that we need during this ministry, this mission. Sometimes I lack that, but where I lack that type of patience, Amy's always there to say, "Hey, keep it simple."
Yeah, that's it. And I was gonna say, where did you get the name Mending Eden? Actually,
Wow. So I'm big into Genesis.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
big into Genesis. I really believe that if you can understand Genesis 1, 2, and 3, the rest of the Bible uh,
Mhm.
becomes easier to understand because
Yeah.
you understand that everything is about getting back to the beginning, right?
Mm.
Even when you read Revelations, I used to think that it was about the end times until I really started to study Genesis 1, 2, and 3. And then
Right.
you start to understand that no, everything's about getting back to God's presence, back into Eden, back into his garden. And that's
100%.
where the name Mending Eden came from. How do we heal these marriages? How do we restore them back to their rightful place back in the Garden of Eden? And that's
Oh,
where Mending Eden came from. Yeah.
that's interesting. You said that you're into Genesis because I was watching a video. I think I sent it to you, Amy, when I said we're watching one of you guys' video, and you said something about Adam and Eve,
hmm
how the enemy comes to steal and destroy. And you were talking about Adam and Eve, how God has that as the blueprint.
hmm
Um, and what you said in there was something you said that you said focusing on your partner's lack.
hmm
That's the way of the enemy,
Yeah.
in my own words. But do you want to elaborate on that, like with the fascination of Genesis, so African Genesis?
It's really amazing just how God created us to be, and you see marriage as this way of His protection.
Mm,
So in Genesis, what God did was He showed Adam everything, all of the good things, all of the good things first. Then Eve comes along, and she has access to all of the good things, right? So the way that the enemy was able to come in was he was able to get them to focus on the one thing that they lacked, which was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But they
mhm,
had access to everything in the garden, and
mhm,
it's really how we are too, right? As husbands, as wives, just as people in general, we're always looking for what we not can't have, but we're really not supposed to have, right?
mm,
And in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had access to everything. They had access to everything. You
yeah.
know, they a lot of people will look at our wives
Mm,
and they will say, "Okay, well, you're just a helpmate." Right? Like I am supposed to be the head, but when you really understand Genesis, you see it differently. You
mm,
really do because Eve had access to everything Adam had access to, right? All of the good in the garden, all of the gold, all of the fruit, everything. She had access to everything. Um, we only assume that Adam was stronger than Eve physically only because of how it is now in the fallen world where we're stronger up top, but I've seen my wife give birth. I can't do that, right?
yeah, yeah.
So the strength is also equal, is just distributed in a different way. But the order came in with the commandments. The order came in because God said it wasn't good for Adam to be alone right after he gave him the command of don't go to that tree. So he created a helpmate for him. And a lot of us men, because I was caught up in that too, Sharon, where when we first got married, I'm like, okay, I am the head. She, she's the help. I don't know what she needs to help me with until you start to study Genesis. And when you study Genesis, what you realize is God, being the authority, gave us both roles and power to do certain things. So when he said help, it's not our version as men of what help means. When God said help, he used the same word that he did when he was talking to the Israelites. And when I started to really break it down, three definitions, three synonyms really came to me: protection, rescue, and aid. Right?
Right.
So what was she rescuing Adam from? Well, his loneliness. Right? She was rescuing him from his loneliness. What was she aiding him in? The purpose of maintaining and cultivating the garden and keeping God's commandments. And then finally, well, what was she protecting him from? Our wives protect us from ourselves if we just listen. If we just listen. So Satan to kind of get in there and kind of, find a way to get them to focus on not each other, but something that they didn't have. So that's kind of what I meant by that.
I mean, I told you guys we're going to be getting some knowledge and wisdom. That is amazing. And you were talking about helpmate. Amy, what are ways that you've been helping Apollos through these years that you've been married? How long have you been married now?
11 years.
Yeah.
11.
I had to look at them like a cheat sheet because
it'll be 12 in a week.
Yeah, in a week. Because we've been together for 20. So my first inkling is to say 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's 20, girl. It's 20.
Been together for 20 years, married for almost 12. But I really had to learn over time what it meant to be a helpmeet. You know what I mean? Honestly, in the very beginning, we just kind of got married and we were winging it. So I was still, I think, kind of in a selfish phase because that's what the world kind of inundates us with. Yeah. I went into marriage already thinking, I'm an independent woman because that's what I was raised, what I saw, what in marriage was just added to it to me. Right. So as years went by and there's like clashing going on because I didn't understand, how to be the wife that he needed. And he was learning how to be the husband that I needed. Right. So just watching and learning him over the years. Like he's very in touch with the Lord. His gift is speaking. But what we found out is that, and he's always told me, he said, babe, I need to do something. I have something big that the Lord has put onto my heart. He said, but I can't do it without you. And it's funny because over the years, he's tried different ventures, right? He's tried different entrepreneurial ventures, different business ventures, and they were all genius, but there was a missing piece. I was going through a phase where I was like, God, I don't know what my gift is. And it's kind of intimidating when you're with somebody who you're like, oh, he's touching.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my prayer for a while was, God, use me. And I kind of opened myself up to that. And it was funny because it was in 2018 or 19.
No,
we went to Cabo Verde.
2022. That was the second time.
See, look, I keep looking at him for a cheat sheet.
Brain, it's fine. I get like that.
It's great. But we went on a big trip. And I remember that summer we were in Cabo Verde. That's where my family's from. And I was praying. I said, I was desperate. Like, God, where do I fit into all of this? And that's kind of where I learned where my gift was, and kind of where Mending Eden was birthed, because we realized that what we needed to do it together. Yeah. So watching him, encouraging. Sometimes I have to save him from himself because he's so big vision that he has all of these ideas, which are great.
Yeah.
But, okay, one thing at a time. You know what I mean? And he breaks me out of my comfort zone. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. I feel like we literally dove right into it, but I want to get back to the history of how you guys met.
Okay.
For obviously people that may not follow you on your channels, seeing you for the first time, just obviously give context of where all this wisdom is coming from, because I believe like everything that you guys are speaking is something that other couples are going to be like, whoa, I needed to hear that. But that didn't just come just like, we got into this, we know what we're doing. You walk that journey and you're here for a reason. 20 years later is not a joke. And obviously I know the foundation that you guys have is Christ. So I just want to take it back to the history of how you guys met and what you guys thought of each other. And yeah, I don't know who wants to go first, because as I always say, there's always a different story.
Yeah.
So it's funny because people are, not that they don't believe it, but they're surprised. But we were a blind date. We were a blind date. I had just graduated high school, and I graduated a little bit younger. I graduated when I was 17. I was about to start college or university.
Yeah.
So it was the summer before, and we had a mutual friend who she's like, girl, I have this or my best friend, that's what she called him because they were best friends at the time. My best friend, and he's back from college, and I think you'll really like him. And it's funny because we worked at an ice cream place. So I was in the back washing dishes. And she shows me this picture.
Oh, Lord.
Right? She shows me this picture, and she's sitting on this guy's lap, and her arms around his neck, right? So she shows me
his neck.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was. So she showed me the picture. I'm washing the dishes, and I look. I said, "Oh, okay, yeah. I'm happy for you, sis." Like I thought that was her man. So she washing the dishes. She's like, "No, this is Apollo." So I'm like,
why on his lap then?
Is that who you were trying to set me up on a date with? But yeah, we ended up going on a date, and kind of the rest is history, right?
No.
Oh yeah, I forgot to share that. At that time, so I was 17, and I was different than a lot of my peers in that I was still a virgin. So that's one of the big things that she shared with Apollos. Yeah, because she didn't know that
I was a virgin.
That he was a virgin, because he was kind of like this cool, like football player that they had gone to high school together. Like all the girls were into him, but nobody knew that about him. So when he heard that about me, that was like, oh, I got to meet her, because she had set him up on some dates before, but they were disastrous.
It just didn't work out.
It wasn't me, so it was disastrous.
See? It made room for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting, because you were a virgin. How old were you? 17, 18?
17.
And then you were, are you the same age?
He was 20.
I was 20.
Okay. So how, because no one knew that you were a virgin, how and why didn't you share?
I didn't think anybody would understand. You know, it was something that God kind of had me going through. You know, it wasn't something that I actually set out to do. It's just that full transparency. You know, when the opportunities would present itself, it was like God would just shut me down. He would just shut me down until finally I just kind of embraced it. And being 20, my whole thought process was, well, the next person that I date, because you know I have been with somebody for a couple of years, and you know we didn't sleep together or anything, and then that ended. You know, it wasn't a bad breakup, but it was just like I was always for marriage. I was always okay. I want to get married. I don't want to date somebody just to date them. To me, that was kind of a waste of time. I'm like, I just want to find somebody that I can marry. And I thought, you know, that maybe the person before Amy could have been, but there were signs down the road, but nothing had happened. And my whole thought process before I met Amy was, well, the next person that I get involved with, they have to be a virgin. They have to be, because I am. And my whole thought process was, you know, it wouldn't be anything against them, but it wouldn't be fair to me. You know, I've saved myself for this long. You know, so I wanted to meet the right person. So when my friend was talking to me, and she had no idea, she just knew the type of guy I was. We had a lot of just great talks, and you know, she understood kind of the way I was thinking, because I would always talk to her kind of about my thought process that nobody else really knew about. My brothers didn't even know that I was a virgin. Nobody knew. Everybody just assumed that I wasn't.
I assumed he wasn't too when I met him.
You did. And
So you must have carried yourself in a certain way for people to think that.
He was just like, he was cool, like, you know.
I've always been very I like to talk. I like to talk, Aaron. So
I don't know if y'all can tell.
I like to talk. I like to communicate. I like to smile. I like to have a good time. I like to make other people feel good about themselves too. So people just assume. My brothers assume too that, oh, well, you know, I'm sure you've probably had sex before, but that wasn't the case. And me and Amy, it was one night we were talking. I think you asked me. Was it you that asked me?
I didn't. It's not that I asked. I think I kind of assumed that you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was something like, well, I know you're probably not a virgin anyways, or something like that.
No. Remember you were like, you said, "Are you a virgin?"
Did I?
Yeah, and I said, "Well, if I wasn't,
oh yeah,
is that okay?" And she was like, "Yeah." I said, "If I was, is that okay?"
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he didn't say anything after
like,
that.
huh.
It was just quiet, and I was like,
Are you or you not?
are you not?
No, like,
And then he told me, he said it like that. He was like, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a virgin. Yeah.
See, that's beautiful because like a lot of people think that it's not possible in this world to be virgins, and there's this kind of like, I don't want to say it's like weird, but people do think that it's weird.
Yeah. And I think they think you're weird, like you have, like you're like maybe socially awkward, or you haven't chosen it. I think you're right. There is a stigma that like, okay, like he was just super cool. Like you just assume that he, you know what I mean? So then virginity doesn't have a face, I guess.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it's really beautiful to see that, you know, it's still possible. And that's one thing I do wish that I did abstain, but that's not my story. But I'm just praying that, you know, for the generations to come, that, you know, highlighting it, that it's okay. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing, because one, it's going to save you STDs. It's going to save you baby mama, baby father drama, and just heartache. And one, pardon?
And your soul, girl.
Exactly. I was about to say that, in your soul. And you know, with the Bible, it warns against promiscuity and fornication and all that kind of stuff. And I think it is kind of put to the back burner now because it's the done thing in the world that we live in. That no, you have to test it before you buy. You know, you don't just buy a car; you have to try it out first. But then the sex is not good. But that's, people are looking at things in a very warped way.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you said that, Sharon, because again, I always reference Genesis. I read the whole Bible. You know, actually, Amy read the entire Bible first, which caused a nice little competition between. I'm like, oh, I gotta read the whole thing. But in Genesis, what you see is, like I said, marriage is God's protection. And what God did, God does everything for purpose, on purpose, and with purpose, right? So when you look at marriage, what you see is you have the spiritual relationship and the purpose, you know, us and God before we even meet. We're supposed to have our purpose and our spiritual relationship already defined. I didn't know these things until I started to read the Bible, by the way. I don't want anybody to think like I just came like this. No, I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm sure we'll get to those. But it is that spiritual connection with God first, then that intimate connection between each of us. And he said one flesh was last. That's the last thing that you do. What the enemy has done, what Satan has done, I want to call him by name, is he's perverted it. Everything that God makes is good, right? But good can be the enemy of right. So what the enemy has done is he's taken sex and he's perverted it and he's made it first. So now you've built your foundation off of something that's not binding. Sex isn't binding. And that's why God said, no, sex is supposed to be last. It's supposed to be the last thing. You build your foundation off of rock, which is that spiritual relationship between you and God. And then now that everything's in order, Then when you do come together and the two of you are now one flesh, it is that bonus that's needed, but there's a purpose for that too. So once I understood that, it started to change my thinking about sex and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're speaking from experience because we were virgins when we met, but we didn't make it to marriage.
No, we
so
didn't.
we're not trying to be fake, always trying to be transparent about it. But we did see once we did switch it up and we added that component in our relationship without us being married, that it did complicate things.
Big time. I wish we never activated it, Sharon. And I told her, I said, once it was activated within me, it was very hard to tame it after that. That's all that I thought about. And she went from a someone to something. And my whole thing before, where we had dated for 3 years before we had sex, but I was all about her. Then when we had sex, I was all about it. And it changed things for a while.
Wow, that's so interesting though that you noticed that correlation. Because men, not being weird or anything, but men do think about it a lot more than women, it seems like. And I can see why when it's making sense now when you're saying that it's mentioned last in Genesis, that you get to know the person, but sex should be the last thing, because if it's the first thing, you're not going to get to know that person properly. So thank God you had those 3 years where you were able to get to know each other without that veil of sex, which can kind of make us think we're in love, because sometimes with sex as well, when you have it first, I think correlate it with love, but it's actually not.
Right.
So thank God for his mercy and his grace that you guys did manage to do that building first and that after, and then you are still married.
Yes.
But forgive me for my immature answer. It might be, question. So that's what I think sometimes, when people, let's say, have sex and they have kids, but they stay together forever, but there's no marriage. How do we view that? Because I see that kind of dynamic all the time.
Yeah.
Are they married? Because there's some people that say, oh, a paper, a marriage certificate is just a piece of paper. I don't need that to show that I'm married or committed to somebody.
They are married. They're just not aligned. And that's the difference. It's always about the foundation. So in marriage, you're always trying to find a way to hold on to something. So then when the kids come, it's like, okay, we're going to hold on for the kids, right? You have to find something that bonds you together, because if not, it's just a piece of paper. But when people get married and they come together, what they realize is this: there's something in my spirit that connects with your spirit that says, wait, I know you. But we don't take the patience and the time to go through that process. We automatically like, oh, I want you. I want to get physical with you. And then that's where the misalignment comes in. So now we're finding ways just to stay connected. However, my mom and dad have been married for 44 years and they've never been married. Like when I say never been married, it is one of the worst examples of marriage that I have ever seen. It's been 44 years, but they've been holding on. More so, my mom has been the one who said, you know what, I'm not going to divorce him at all. I'm not going to divorce him at all, because she believes in the Bible, and if he didn't cheat, fornication in the Bible is the only reason that Jesus said that you can really get a divorce. So she's been holding on to it, but I didn't see something that I was like, wow, I want that.
Yeah.
Now, I may not have answered the right question, but
no, that makes sense. It does make sense, because it's just something that I always think about, and I, like I said, see couples like that, and I'm just like, I don't know how to even approach that. But I'm just asking, like, all the couples that are coming on, what they think about that, because it's something that's not really addressed. That we don't really address, and then these people are kind of left in limbo, like, where do I stand? And some of them obviously can't serve in church because they're not actually legally married.
Oh, you're asking if they're married, if they're not. Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh.
So if they're already living together, they've got
Oh,
kids.
we misunderstood it.
Okay, no,
It's
but the way you answered it sounded like you got it, but yeah.
Gotcha. Go ahead, babe.
But I don't know. That's
It's a complicated one.
it's complicated because a lot of people argue that in the Bible there's no paperwork, but there's a ceremony, joining two people together for life. So I
Mhm.
think it's tough, but you got to get in the Word, and the Word, talks about being married.
There's a
Mm.
covenant.
There's a covenant that has to be made
Yeah.
under God. And like I said, a lot of people try to argue about that. A lot of people try to argue that you're married once you have sex with somebody because
Well, I hope that's not the case.
that's what I've seen, like on our
Yeah.
videos. People
Yeah.
have said, "Oh no, it means that you're once you have sex with somebody." And that, but if you are very active, so you're married to 20 people, like you know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's a good
and
point.
this time to be married means, to have that paperwork. So
Well, everybody harps on that one flesh where it's like, no,
Yeah.
marriage is one flesh. Now, they also have a point in this where everything is by the laws of the land. So the
Right.
reason why we have a piece of paper is because the
it's the law
law
of the land, right?
requires us to have that piece of paper. So if we remove that piece of paper, what I always say to people, when they DM and they're like, hey, but the Bible talks about one flesh. I'm like, no, the Bible talks about order. And if you do it in the order that God wants you to do it, if we were in the jungle, I
Right.
always say this: if me and Amy were in the jungle, I still have to do it in order for us to be married in God's eyes. In order for us to be truly married, I have to do it in order. Where Adam said this when God presented Eve to Adam, he just presented her to him, and Adam said, "Now this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, and for this reason shall man leave mother and father," meaning I'm going to turn my back on everything, and the two of us shall become one flesh.
Yeah.
That's why the one flesh is last. It is that final bonding of the two, but you've turned your back on everything. It's like if me and Amy got married and I said, hey babe, Monday through Friday, I'm all yours. But Friday night, I kind of want to flirt a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to go out a little bit.
He's like, nah.
I haven't turned my back on everything, right? It's just like when you become one with Christ. It says repent. Now, what does repent mean? It means I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. I no longer want that anymore. So I'm turning my back on everything. And if there is no piece of paper and you do that, if you live in the jungle and you want to get married, you have to just go by God's order.
A different circumstance.
Yeah, that's a different circumstance.
Yeah, that's right. And I like what you said about being the law of the land.
Mhm.
And we are called to follow, the rules of where we live.
Yes.
Like, when the story that I'm thinking of where they were trying to ask Jesus, like, about when Jesus said, pay to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yes.
So you got to pay your taxes. So you have to do what the land says.
Yes.
There's no way around it. Because it shows that even Jesus himself, or God himself, doesn't have, he can't overrule what has been put in place. We have to go by that. And that is what we're called to do, to be obedient. And being obedient to those laws is being obedient to him.
Oh my God.
So I love that you pointed that out, because it just made me think like, okay, yeah, that's the answer right there. That's the answer. It's not about the paper. It's about following the order and the law of the land. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. So when you guys, after the 3 years, you said you slipped up. Well, we know it's not just a slip up, but things happened.
That was intentional. That was intentional.
How did we get into this predicament, guys? Oops. How did you said things changed after that? And how long after that did you guys get married? So first of all, how did things changed?
So it's funny because in my mind, like I didn't think about what happens after, or the expectations after. Because in the movie, they do it like one time and then that movie's over. So I was like, oh, I have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You didn't read the fine print, baby.
done. We're not done. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's funny because that's a sign that I clearly was not ready. I didn't think about it. I didn't think that there's still
Mm.
like he said earlier, I awakened something. So and he's a man. So you know what I mean?
Spirit and spiritually to that point. See, I hadn't had sex physically, but I was also in. I got introduced to porn at 15.
Wow.
When the spiritual world is so powerful. That's why in James it says, Jesus says this: if you've lusted in your heart, you've sinned already. And I never understood that until I really dove into the Bible. But what lust is you create this world in which you do whatever you want, and then the only thing that is waiting in the physical world is just the opportunity. So I had already sinned against God in my own spirit for a long time because I was into porn, and Amy was the manifestation of that in the physical realm. So when me and Amy finally had sex, to her, she was like, "Oh, well, I've watched, the movies, and it's just once. Okay, cool." For me, I've watched a different type of movie, right?
Right.
And the movies that I watched, it was all the time, So
Right.
that's what I had downloaded into my system, and that
Mm.
was activated in the physical realm. Then I just expected things to be like the
Right.
movies that I watched, and it was a clash of my flesh and my soul and my spirit, and it was a really tough time, to the point where Amy was just like, "Hey, that wasn't her," and I didn't want to force her like that. But it was one time, and I'm being just fully transparent, where I said, "Okay," and see, this is how the enemy does it. That's why I'm so glad that I no longer live that life. But it
Yeah.
was one day, Sharon, where I said, "How can I get her to want to have more sex?" I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, well, I'm going to just have her watch a porn video with me, right?"
Mhm.
And I remember, is it okay for me to talk about this? Well,
I
I
mean,
guess I started now.
sure.
I'm sorry.
You can't just leave us on a cliffhanger like that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
no,
sorry.
absolutely not.
But and Amy's always been my saving grace. She's always been my helpmate, and I just didn't know it.
Mm.
Because she was in there, and we were watching it, and then she was just like, "Ew." I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yuck. This is disgusting. Yeah, absolutely. This is this is terrible." And that was it. But I think about that to this day, and I just thank God for His mercy, because I'm like, wow, I was really
Mm.
trying to drag you into a world in which I hated. It was
Yeah.
such a simple, dark world that I didn't want to be in, but it was trying to manipulate her into being miserable with me, and
Mm.
that was, that was kind of eye opening, honestly.
No, but you know what? I think that is a story for a lot of people. And thank you so much for sharing that and being so transparent, because I think that's going to set a lot of people free, because it's something that people struggle with.
Mm,
It's like people do go to porn to figure out how to have sex,
mhm,
because it's such a taboo thing. And actually, as we're talking, I just remember I just had last week, I had like a vision, like a little vision of me and my husband at a table sitting with my eldest daughter, but she was grown up
mhm,
and she was with a husband. And
mhm,
we were talking to them about sex,
mhm,
just explaining to them about our struggles with sex. It was
mhm,
literally a brief vision. And I thought about it again to this morning. It came back to me. And I thought that was like a representation of the older generation
mhm,
speaking to the younger generation about sex. Because when we get into our marriages, we're just figuring things out.
mhm,
We don't know what to do. We don't know if the things we're arguing are normal,
mhm,
and how sex should be. Should I be having it every day? Should I be having it once a week?
mhm,
How are things, after we have kids?
mhm.
And I really do feel like that is something that even us as married couples, like what we're doing now,
Yeah.
and that are far along the line, being transparent in that, I think will help save a lot of marriages.
Mhm,
Because I think one of the things that people do, probably break up, is sex.
mhm.
Yeah.
This is.
Yeah.
and after having children.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, I think there is something missing there where I think doing this hopefully will kind of encourage other couples to just stick it out, work it out, and pray it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, because porn is ruining a lot of marriages and individuals.
Yeah.
It's crazy because now I'm looking on the internet. You probably see it. A lot of people are talking about, yeah, I watched porn at this age, I started at this age.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then you grow up having this warped idea that a woman has to perform a certain way,
Yeah.
has to be this kind of, yeah, it's a different kind of way of having sex that they show you on. And it's not real.
Right.
No, it's not real.
It's not real.
You know what's crazy too is we have a son. He's 4, and
Right.
he's hyper aware now of even what's on TV.
That's why we don't let them.
Mm.
And we probably sound like helicopter parents, but I don't care
Yeah,
because
I'm good with that.
just like even the ads, like he's 4, he doesn't need to see it like a woman with you know, I sound like a super prude, but these are the seeds that get planted
Yeah.
in the children. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So if he's just innocently watching a show and then an ad comes on and a woman's running down the street with things bouncing around, he's gonna
Yeah.
he's a
No,
boy.
it's
So it's like
Yeah.
it's really difficult, especially for our men who are already inundated with things like this at a young age. And it's something I didn't realize until I found out my husband struggles, until he points out like, hey babe, this is the age where little boys start getting exposed to these things. This is the age that their curiosity starts getting sparked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we just got to be vigilant and do the best we can for our children.
Well, the Bible says in Proverbs, train a child in the way that they should go, so when
Yeah.
they're older, they won't depart from it. The problem is, what I've realized is, wait, for us to be able to train them in the way that they should go, we
Mhm.
have to know where to go
Yeah.
first, right?
Amen. Amen.
Because if you don't know where you're going, any road takes you there, right?
True.
When you know where you're going, you know what roads not to take. So that's been very important in our journey with God. And again, I didn't know these things until I was a preacher's kid, Sharon. And
Wow.
my father, was against reading a lot of he said, you don't need to read the Old Testament.
Oh.
Yeah, he said, you don't need to read the Old Testament. And if I didn't read the Old Testament, I wouldn't quite know or be able to grasp what Jesus was saying in the New Testament, because he always referred to the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
everybody in the New Testament. So, when I sat and I read the Bible, and I go through it once this year, I'm trying to go through it 2-3 times. Both of us do. You get such a new understanding each and every time, and it just allows you to go deeper and deeper into God. So if we go deeper into God and deeper into his understanding, it's just a reflection and manifest within the marriage, because I'm like, okay, we're going to go deeper into each other, where we want to get to a point, Sharon, and it's, I used to be like, I don't want to say that in front of people so they don't, think that we're just trying to be perfect. But we are, though. We are. Perfect means complete. I want to get to a point where there's no disagreements at all.
Yeah.
And I believe that God created marriage as a way for us to become who we can be. And that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that before I got married, I needed to become a husband before then. Like, I already become a husband before I became a husband. And if you don't become something before you get there, now you, like you said earlier, Sharon, you're just trying to figure everything out.
Yeah.
And
yeah. No, but that's the goal. That is the goal, to try and get to that perfect place where you don't have arguments. Because it happens. It happens. Even us, just 2 days ago, we had an argument. I was just like, ugh.
It happens.
But I think we've kind of come to the point now where it doesn't last long like it used to.
There you go.
So before, we used to just argue, and it was just so bad, where I was just like, did we do the right thing?
Yeah.
But I think we've gone past that stage where we know we're in this for the long run, and arguments happen. One of us is going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed. One of us hasn't had enough sleep. I've had a baby. I'm going to be moody. So he has to be a bit understanding of me. So it's that those kind of things that we've learned, that just because we're having an argument doesn't mean that we're going to divorce.
No.
Right.
It's not grounds for divorce. Just
No.
an argument. We're two different people trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we said about after the time that you guys slipped up, the arguments that you had, how bad were they?
Go ahead, baby.
So our communication styles were very different, especially in the beginning. I was not a talker. I would internalize everything. So
Okay.
it's not even like, it wasn't arguments at that time. It was him getting frustrated at me not being able to verbalize what I was thinking. Me just being frustrated because I was like, he is talking for a long time about things that I'm not doing. So then it would look like this. He's talking to me like, so it's just that's what it was in a nutshell. But it would happen over and over again. Of this man, poor thing. I just picture him talking to a brick wall because that's what it was like. I was not good at verbalizing what I was thinking and what I was feeling, and I didn't think that anybody thought it was important what I was thinking and feeling. So it's not like, it took years for us to be able to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And have you always been like that, Amy?
Yes, I have.
You have.
And not anymore, girl. We're breaking it.
I was gonna say, how are you now?
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel myself trying to regress. He won't let me, and I won't let me. So
no, she's done such an amazing job, just digging deep into herself and allowing the Holy Spirit to really just help guide her out of that place, because it wasn't her. You are, three things: your environment, right? What you've experienced and what you've been exposed to. So when you get married, you don't marry the person, you marry their past, right? You marry their environment, you marry their experiences. And those things don't really come out fully before you get married, because you want to present the best version of yourself before you get married, which is good, because then it also lets you know, oh, that version exists. We just have to get there and stay there. But when you get married and you say, I do, we're not saying I do to each other. We're saying I do to the past, which means I'm saying I do to potentially my enemy, because I don't know that part of her and she didn't know that part of me.
Wow.
So when, the past, I love how God allows us to remember the past, but we've been taught that the past should be something that we dismiss. I like to educate myself with the past. It's like, how can we learn from it? What is it that happened when I was growing up? Okay, now I know what not to do. Okay, now I just need to focus on how do we get better. And I think with the communication styles, her communication style was based off of her upbringing, and mine was based off of my upbringing. I talked a lot because I felt like, it was 6 of us boys.
Oh, wow.
I felt like I wasn't heard, right? I felt alone a lot of times. It was my mom trying to raise 6 of us. I was the third. I'm an Irish twin, and I felt neglected. So I'm just talking all the time, and it wasn't. Sometimes I would talk back, but I would talk back so I could get attention. Everything for me was about, oh, you're not going to hear me? Okay. Wait till I say this. Oh, I got your attention now. I got to run because my mom chased me with a belt. But,
this is interesting, because obviously that's going to help us parents that have talkative kids to figure out, like, okay, am I not giving you enough attention? Because my daughter is like that. She talks a lot. And I was like, can you pipe down a little bit? But at the same time, I can feel the Holy Spirit just saying, like, don't suppress it, because similar to you, that was kind of how I was, where you feel like you're being suppressed or being told, oh, don't say that, or don't act like this. And I'm trying not to do that with my daughter, because I feel like I'm much more aware of it now. So that's very handy. Thank you for sharing that, because it can help us parents too.
Yes.
And it's funny because our oldest daughter, she's kind of a mix of us. She's pretty eloquent, but then when she gets frustrated, she shuts down. So she's got Apollos in her and then me. So now we're just like, nope. We let her think about it. We're like, you got to let us know what you're thinking. You got to let us know what you're thinking. I don't want her to get into the habit of just suppressing it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm to the point now that even if I don't have words at that moment, there's been times like where I wake him up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, hey, you remember earlier why I didn't have nothing to say? I got something to say
And
now.
I'm like, Lord.
He's like,
I'm like,
Seriously, it's 4 a.m.
hey,
yes,
you asked for it. I
yes,
got
Oh,
the
wow.
now, baby.
yeah. But you know
I'm
what?
like,
I've learned in communication that, you know, in the Bible it says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak."
mm,
And I've always been quick to talk, especially in our relationship. And what Amy taught me was I need to be, and God taught me this, you know, I need to be quick to listen and just let her, even if it's silence, don't say anything. Let her process what she's thinking. And
right.
maybe if she doesn't know how to say it right now, she's gonna wake me up later and say it. And
Okay.
then, yeah,
Excuse me.
but that's also
Excuse
with
me.
our daughter. You know, with our
Yeah.
daughter, it's the same way. How do we build her? You know, you learn criticism at a
Mm,
very early age because you get shut down at a very early age. The first place you get shut down is in the home
Yeah.
with the
yeah,
people that you feel like love you the most, and then you go to school. What do we do in
that's
school? We raise our hands. They tell you, shh, be quiet. You
mm,
know, don't talk, don't ask any questions. And then we go to church, right? Church is the same way where you sit, you listen to somebody,
yeah,
but you can't ask a question. So we're built to be quiet and receive information, but we're not built to really understand and process what we're feeling and be able to talk to each other about it. That's why we're so big on her with, baby, we have to talk, because to know all is to forgive all. We can't forgive what we don't know. We can't really process what you're not telling us. So we
yeah.
got her to the position where she's like, Mommy, Daddy, I have something to say.
I
And we're
have
like,
something to
okay,
say. Yep, she does do that.
yeah, yeah,
That's so cute. That is so cute. I love that because it just shows that, you know, they're listening and they actually taking in that advice that you're telling them.
Mhm.
And hopefully as they grow up, they become even more confident where they just come to you and just say like, well, this is what I want to say.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, because we want to raise kids that are not afraid of us, that are not afraid of our reaction to whatever they're going to share.
hmm
Because I think that's a story for a lot of people that, oh, I couldn't tell my parents anything because one, I'll get a whoop or like a, or what did you do? What did you do?
Lord,
Oh, sorry, did I trigger something there?
Lord. I've gotten the backhand so many times, Sharon. That's why we like whoop. I was like, whoop.
Oh, that was a real reflex then.
My
Sorry.
mom backhanded me so many times. Lord have
He
mercy.
felt it.
Oh,
You can.
oh man, yeah, it's not a joke. You know, it's good we can laugh about it, but like you're saying, learning from it and doing better moving forward as parents, that's the only thing that we can. That's the best present we can do for give
Yeah,
for our children,
yeah.
really. Because I guess they were just learning. That was their time.
Mm,
That's what they knew. But
yeah.
at the same time, I think as a parent, you do know better. But I think there's different factors and of why we were hit as kids.
And it's the circumstances too. You know,
Yeah.
my dad wasn't the disciplinarian at all. It was my mom. Yeah. Oh yeah. He never touched us. He didn't. You know. He wasn't there like that. He worked, and then we wouldn't see him. You know, he would come. He wouldn't necessarily come straight home. He would go, you know, just out. He wasn't doing anything bad, but he just wasn't home. He was
Mm,
absent. Everybody he was absent. So my mom was tasked with raising 6 boys, and as boys, it's interesting because you know you don't look at your mom as this disciplinarian type of person, you know. So we wore my mom out. My mom had to spank us, you know. She had to,
mm,
especially me, because you know, again, I felt neglected, so I'm just doing everything.
most-
I'm doing the absolute most, Sharon. So I got the most beatings out of anybody. But when I look back on it, I'm thankful, because if she didn't, you know, I would have completely gotten away. So it does depend on
yeah.
the circumstances. We're blessed that you know that God has given us a life where we're like, okay, I remember this. This is
Mm-hmm.
the type of way we want to raise our kids. We want them to understand this. We want them to not grow up the same way that I did. Amy was always good, so she didn't really get spanked like that. So
I was
you know,
a chronic rule follower. I was scared of
you
everything.
were, and you've always been. Where me, I was breaking the rules and everything. So even now, I said, okay, babe, I don't want you to be the disciplinarian. I want them to just love you. I don't want them to look at mom as the bad guy, where I looked at my mom as the bad guy. So what I did as well is, I feel like from like 0 to 4, you give them a little pow pow. I don't, you don't do anything to break them. But
Yeah.
what I always do is this, Sharon, is after I give, like, Adonis is still 4, so sometimes I give him a little pow pow. But I mean, he has to really do something.
Right.
Then right afterwards, I pick him up and I kiss on him. I tell him how
Mhm.
much I love him, and we talk about it, right?
Mhm.
But
I always tell him,
you're a
"You're a
good
good
boy.
boy," and he says,
Yeah.
Tell daddy that you're a good boy." I'm a good boy.
Yeah, I'm a good boy, daddy. And then, he looks me in the eyes and he's like, I'm a good boy, daddy.
Yeah.
I'm a good boy. I'm like, that's right. You
That's
are.
some real intentional parenting right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You guys need to write a parenting book as well while you're at it.
I'm just going as, the Bible has really taught me. I know I push the Bible a lot. I have to.
No, but we have to.
I can't talk about anything else because I've read a lot of books, but the Bible is the one I'm like, whoa, this is designed to understand how to live. So
Because
I
I don't know how we do marriage without the Bible. I always think this, like, man, some of the things that we've gone through, I don't think I would have done it without the Bible and the Holy Spirit. Like, is just not, I just can't, think of it other than, we need it. And I always think, like, how do people do it without the word? And I guess people can do it, but they won't thrive. They're not thriving in the marriage. Because
No.
you see people in their marriages for 60, 70 years, but you can see one of them is not happy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no growth there as well. And like, I love how you guys are talking like reflectively, like looking back, like I could have done this better and you are doing better now. So I think that's why I love the Bible, because while you read it, it reads you as well. You think, oh, I need to change this. Is this me?
Say it like that, God.
I know, right? Especially Proverbs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, gosh, this is me. I'm like, I need to go on a week fast to get this out.
You know what, Sharon? I love that because I wish people understood what you just said, right? The Bible, I used to think, right, when I'm reading the Bible, like, for instance, it said, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Our first year of marriage, I'm like, oh, that's it. I didn't find a good thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm like, oh, this is a mistake. I'm like, oh, I was supposed to find a good wife, right? I'm blaming.
Yeah.
I'm blaming. But then what the Holy Spirit told me, he said, when you read the Bible talks to you about you.
Yes.
And then when I started to read it, I'm like, oh, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. I'm like, oh, I never became the he. He's always been the good thing, but I would never became the he to find it. And
Yeah.
once I started to understand that, I'm like, okay, I need to find it. She's there. She's always been there. I need to become the he, because I was always blaming, and I was like, oh man, this is all about me. The Bible's all about me. Okay.
And what we have a couple at church that always drops gems for us, right? And one of the things that they told us was interchange the words in the Bible. So on my end, she who finds a husband finds a good thing. Because I think a lot of the times we're reading it, like, and it's like whatever gender specific for what that role is. But when we switch it up as women too, a lot of times we're sitting down thinking, okay, I'm the prize. He's got to,
Yes.
you know what I mean? But it's
Treat me like it.
yeah, two people to put in the work, because I have an amazing husband, and I used to not be ashamed. But when I was around other women who maybe weren't in a happy place in their marriage, like I feel like I would dim our light a little bit when we're called to let our light shine, so other people can see, other people can see that, when you lean into the Lord and you put the work in, that this is what can happen. So I think we're both very intentional now about he never did anyways. He never did dim it. But I'm very intentional now about like I know I have a good man. I am blessed among women. Okay. Thank you, Lord. You know, just living in that so other people can know that it's attainable. It's there.
Oh,
Yeah, so right, Amy, because I think a lot of us women probably do that a lot, especially if someone's going through a rough time and you just
Yeah.
kind of say something just so that they don't feel bad because you don't want to be like, well, my man's good. Let me tell you what my man did yesterday.
Right.
You don't
Yeah.
want to come in like you're being like you're showing off.
Right. And there's a way to do it, not to make
Yeah,
someone else feel bad, but to
Yeah.
still walk in what you have.
exactly.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
break. Yeah, we need to do better. We need to do better. But talking about that, there's a question I wanted to ask you. Do you think it's possible to pick the wrong partner? Because I've been hearing this a lot. Like I got divorced because I was with the wrong person. Um, because obviously we spoke about the only reason to divorce was fornication. So what do you guys think about that statement that where people are divorcing because they think they married the wrong person?
I actually don't think anybody marries the wrong person. I think they married the wrong experience of the person, right?
Mhm.
And we marry who we are. And then this is what I mean when you meet somebody, it's really a spiritual thing. It's something about them, right?
Yeah.
You haven't slept with them, you haven't done anything yet, it's something about them that connects with something inside of you. The difference
Mhm.
that I believe is the upbringing, the environment. That's why, I don't criticize anybody because I'm like, I don't know what you've been through
Yeah.
to come to
Mhm.
that point. Obviously, there was something within this person that you said, I can see myself with
With
you forever. But
Yeah.
then when you get into the marriage, sight becomes the enemy of vision, right? Now you have to work through all of these things, and what you see blinds you from what is supposed to be in the future. So that's when you're like, you know what? I married the wrong person. But no, it was something about you that
Yeah.
connected with something about them. But we're also in this world, we build our foundation wrong too. So
Yeah.
then it's just an uphill battle because everything has been flipped and perverted by Satan, by the world. And, now it's okay, I need to get to the spiritual point last, but I've already, done all of these different things. We haven't really communicated beforehand because
Mhm.
communication is really the only reason why people get divorced is communication. Everything falls
Yeah.
underneath communication. It doesn't matter what
100%.
it is, finances, religion, sex, all of it. It's communication that
Yeah.
you fix that, then what you really understand is, oh, we just didn't agree. How do
Yes.
we agree? Well, you build the foundation off of how you agree. So if there's, for instance, with me and Amy, when we like, okay, this is getting ready to be a disagreement, let's find out what we agree on first. So if it's about going out to eat, right? What do you want
Okay.
to eat? Well, she wants Italian. I like to eat meat. So it's
Okay.
like, okay, well, instead of us having an argument, let's find out what we agree on. Both of us want to leave the house, right? Yes. Neither one of us feel like cooking tonight, right? Yes. We both want to go on a date, right? Yes. We
Yeah.
both miss each other, right? Yes. We're both hungry, right? Yes. So then what you find is, oh, we agree on everything, really the most important things, and now it's just about working out the details. And I think if everybody could get to that point where they're like, okay, how do we just find out what we agree on, and
Yeah.
then we work out the details. It doesn't matter where you are in your marriage. If you do that today, just that one thing today, you will have hope, because like, oh, wait a minute, we can correct these things. We just
Yeah. Yeah.
talk to each other.
No, I love that. I agree. Because for me, I find it very sad when people divorce, and then sometimes when you find the reason, it's like that could have been rectified with communication. And I think people give up very easy. And my heart definitely is for marriages.
Mhm.
Because now I understand what marriage is, because even when I look at God and we make mistakes, he doesn't go like, you made that same mistake the same day. You know what I've told you in the word. You didn't follow instructions.
Mhm.
Bye. I'm going to just leave you. He doesn't divorce us. He calls us closer, in fact.
Mhm.
He walks us that journey again and again and again. And I think that's obviously the marriage is how God is with us.
Mhm.
how we should be with one another, forgiving each other's sins and wrongdoings and shortcomings.
Yeah.
So it makes me sad when people don't kind of put the work in, and because I feel sometimes people look at other marriages, they may look at you guys on on YouTube doing your thing, having your ministry, and some people may kind of fantasize or idolize about it. And they think, oh, why doesn't my husband talk about me like this? Why doesn't my wife look at me the way, Amy looks at her husband, sort of thing? But marriage is an individual thing. You have to work on your own marriage.
Yes.
Because you're with somebody different.
Yeah.
The things that I can do to Tommy that they might not fly with Apollos. So, it's so different. And I need to get to the point where you work on your own marriage. Yes, get advice from other couples, surround yourself with other couples, but just tailor it to yourself.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think we live in such a fallen world that obviously there's way more issues in marriage that have pushed people to divorce that we even mention. A lot of people get frustrated sometimes because like they'll come across our page and they've divorced because of traumas, because of abuse, and then they feel the need to let us know that. I understand that, and my heart goes out. I just say press into the word. I think sometimes people get upset because we try to just speak strictly from the Bible. I mean, we're humans, but like in one of our podcast episodes, I made the point to say, okay, listen to what we have to say and grab nuggets of information, but you have to lean into the word for yourself. You have to talk to God for yourself. What I say, you know what I mean? It might strike a nerve because you might have gone through a different situation. Maybe you left trauma. You had to save yourself. You had to save your children. I understand that. And I all I can give you is the word. And I'm telling you, lean into the word and talk to God about what's going on.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because everybody, and this is I love what you just said, babe, and it caused me to think about something that Sharon said earlier about how your husband, right? It's about studying each other. Sometimes we get so fixated on what we want, we fail to realize what they want. Like, what do you? As humans, we only do things because we want something, and that's not a bad thing if you allow Christ inside of you. Because even me being a Christian, well, why am I even a Christian? Well, because of what Jesus promised me, right? Everlasting life, because of his love, because of his grace, because of his mercy, because there's things that I want from Christ. That's why I became a Christian, but I understand that Jesus also wants something. What does he want? He wants all of me, right? He wants my heart. He wants me to bow to his purpose and his will. And you know what? It's really a beautiful thing, because in marriage, when I focus on Amy's wants, but I gotta ask her, what is it that you want, babe?
Yeah.
Right? What is it that you really desire in your heart? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on those things. And then she tells me, what is it that you desire? And then she just focuses on me. It becomes a very healthy, beautiful competition. And what you realize is that the only person that has the answers to your marriage is you. It's not a counselor. It's not a coach. It's not a therapist. You have the answers to your marriage. It's just about talking and really being vulnerable and open. And I know that that's scary, especially if y'all have hurt each other so much.
Yeah.
But nobody has the answers. Like, you have the answers to your own problems. And really, it's just about finding the right environment where you can draw those answers out of each other. And then what you realize is, like, no, not only did I marry the right person, but I'm grateful that we're together because, this is who I saw back then.
Yeah. And what you were saying, Amy, as well, about, people writing into you about, they've been through traumatic situations and they had to leave. I actually saw a video of a lady who was talking about a relationship. Well, she's actually in the relationship now. Her husband was very abusive. He cheated on her like multiple times, and they separated for 6 months. And I think during that time, she was prayerful. They were prayerful and intentional, and they're back together. And like what we're saying, that if you give it to God and just go to God and pray about it and say, God, I want to honor you by, being in this marriage, but I can't be in this marriage if this man stays this way. And I need you to change me as well, because in all of that, we all need to change.
Yeah.
So it's leaning on God
Mm.
to do that, because we can't do on our own.
Mm-mm.
We can't do it on our own. We can't fix it. And I believe that even those people that are abusive, God can change. He can change the trajectory of your marriage, and he can do it above and beyond. And I'm thinking of Hosea as well, when, God told Hosea to marry his prostitute wife,
Oh yeah. I was like,
right?
mercy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, why would God do that?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a very great picture of
Yeah.
what it is. Like, we can be adulterous to God. We can go chase other idols, we chase other things, we chase money, we chase fame,
Yeah.
but God is there. And
Yeah.
that was that kind of
Mm.
lesson that I took from that God is still wants to be with us. He still wants to be in that covenant with us,
Yeah.
in our sinful self. So I think I always have that in the back of my mind, that, like, no, just because this guy is doing something silly, or even me, if I'm in the wrong, God still wants us in this covenant, because that is that's a great demonstration of who he is, and even to our children.
Mm.
And I like your statement. I was going to say, with your statement, when you say, when we fix marriage, we fix everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did that come about? Because I literally agree, 100% agree with that.
So it came about, most of the great things that come about because they've been given to Amy. So because I talk a lot, Sharon, so Amy just sums it up like that. So it was one day we were sitting here talking, and we were just talking about marriage and agreements and alignment and everything else. And Amy was like, "Oh, if you fix marriage, you fix everything." I'm like, "Yo, you're brilliant." You're
And it's funny.
brilliant.
I didn't talk a whole hour, and you just said one statement. That's it.
I'm like, why didn't you say that before?
And it's become like the catchphrase of our ministry. And it's funny because he uses it more often. And if we make a video together, sometimes I forget. He's like, you gotta say the thing.
Fix everything.
Or like we'll be talking, we'll be making a video, and you hear our kids in the other room. Like, when you fix the family, you fix everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah. But
So
if you really think about it, Sharon, it's so true, right?
yeah.
Where the family was what God created first. So the government, the school, the church, all that came from the family.
Yeah.
But yet the family is looked at as last. But if I want Amy to be a better wife, well, I got to be a better husband. So
Yes.
a better spouse then creates a better family. A better family creates a better community. A better community creates a better society. A better society creates a better world, right? It is true, but it starts in the home. That's where it starts. And guess what? The government has to bow down to that. The church has to bow down to that. The school systems have to bow down to that, because that's where the power is. It's not in the government. It's not in the school. It's not even in the church. It's in the family. That's where God gave the power to. So we all get back to that point where it's like, you know what? Like Joshua said, as for me and my home, we will serve the Lord. And we just on that. Then what you realize, especially I tell husbands, I'm like, you can become pastors within your own home. You don't have to always have to depend on a sermon or something. Get in the word yourself. Both of y'all get into the word. Like y'all can create church at home. You can create a system at home, a government at home, just by being obedient and following God's laws and his commands. They're all good things, but he wants you to start at home first. Get your home in order, and then everything happens. So
As you guys were talking about that, I'm just reminded of that verse again, where I think it was Paul who was giving advice to the church, is that I think it's like bishops or pastors, that you should be a man of one wife, and your house has to be in order. And that's interesting that they say that has to be in order first, because if you can't control your home or can't control your kids, how are you going to control the congregation?
And that's where a lot of people fall. When you look at our government, a lot of people fall because their homes aren't in order. Look at the church. A lot of people fall because their homes aren't in order. In the school system, we have teachers because their homes aren't in order, principals because their homes aren't in order. So when I thought about that and I started to read that in Titus and in Timothy, I'm like, oh, well, if I want to really pursue my purpose, God is like, okay, well, this is the first thing you got to do. Like, you have to get your home in order. And the very first home that I realized I need to get in order was right here where the Holy Spirit lives. And I'm like, wow, I got a lot of work to do. But once you start, it doesn't take long. It's like God is like, okay, you ready to obey? And it
Yeah.
taught me this, Sharon. It's taught us this obedience. And I know a lot of people would like, wait, what are you saying? I'm going to explain it. Obedience is better than prayer. And this is what I mean.
Okay.
Here, if the speed limit is 45 and I'm going 45 and somebody else is going 85, if there's a cop that pulls around with their sirens on, I'm not praying because I'm just being obedient.
Mm.
So
Okay.
when we disobey and we pray, we're asking God for mercy. When we obey and pray, there's power in that. It's a different type of prayer.
Mm.
It's for God's leadership. It's his guidance. Jesus said, pray in this manner. He talks about for God's will to be done on earth
Yeah.
as it is in heaven. It's like, oh, well, what do you have up there? I want that here. Right.
Mm.
So it's just a different type of prayer if we just obey. And like Samuel told Saul, obedience is better than sacrifice. I don't want to sacrifice. I got to be obedient.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I get that. Oh, hello, sir. You're joining in the live.
Say hi.
All right. Well, we're almost finished. Okay. All right.
We'll be done soon. Oh no, you guys have literally dropped some gems, and this conversation has literally gone in ways that I didn't even expect it to go, to be honest. But so can you talk me through the time when obviously you guys got married? How were things and how actually, first of all, right now, is it something that you guys, let's say, always argue about and is you kind of keep circling around this thing like constantly and you just but you're okay after you pipe down, if that makes sense. Um, if you're happy to share.
No, that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I think right now, we don't argue about it, but it's our ministry. It's our ministry, and then also that God has, we have a baby who's 7 months old, so he's ready. Like I said, he is full force, full throttle, and sometimes it's like I'm the brakes unintentionally because we got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, it's not an argument. It's just me wanting to do more and not being able to do what we need to do right now.
It's been a blessing though, because what it's caused me to do is really go back into God and this ministry has caused me to understand something, is that yes, God has given me this vision and this purpose, but he also let me know that the key to fulfilling that is not within me, but it's within Amy. So I have to listen, right? I have to listen. And yes, and you know what? You know what, Sharon? And then it got me on the topic of authority. And I'm like, okay, well, God is the authority. The role that he gave to Amy, I didn't give to her. He did. So if I reject her voice and what she's trying to instruct me on, I'm not just rejecting her, I'm rejecting God. I didn't give her that power. God gave her that power. And it's for a good reason. So I'm like, let me just listen to my wife. And every time that I've just listened to her, it works out. It's slower than what I want to do. I'm very fast paced. It's slower, but now I realize, okay, Lord, I get it. Thank you for, giving me the heart and the mindset to listen and to, really just pay attention to what she's trying to say, because she only wants good things.
Yeah. Yeah. And normally us women are very right. Not saying anything that we like the best, but no, we there's something that we just, I guess maybe we're more sensitive to the Holy Spirit, or just men are just very like, I've got this idea, I want to do it, I'm going to do it now.
Yes.
But us women, we've got other things to juggle, and we kind of analyze a little bit more. I'm like, okay, How is this going to affect us as a family? How is it going to affect me as a mom? Am I going to be able to still do my, the things that I need to do? Because I feel like me and you and Amy are similar. I don't want anything else to take away from me being the best mother,
Right.
or best wife. So, because I feel when I've got too much things going on, I'm quite moody and I'm snappy, and I don't like that side of me.
Yeah, that's probably true for us
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes so much sense, because even in the Bible, Sharon, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the difference between God coming to women and men, it is different. We had to go up to the mountains for 40 days to experience
Yeah.
God, for God to come to you. It is a difference. Y'all are more open to receiving God. Sometimes men, we use our logic to be our own gods, and we outthink God, and we become our own gods, therefore breaking that very first commandment. Where, when I get into that mode, I'm like, I'm not hearing it correctly. Let me listen to Amy, because her heart is just always open. And I would like to think that mine is always open, but I know when it's not. When she says something and the Holy Spirit is like, you need to listen, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And do you think that's probably where the sort of friction comes in marriage, where one person wants to do one thing and the other's like, no, I don't think this is the right thing.
Yes.
And we think that's our partner just being hard-headed, but
Yes.
somehow that's the Holy Spirit.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you, but also it's learning when and how to share that, because it used to come across as fear, like, oh no, I'm scared, I don't want to do that, and shutting it down. And that's how I communicated it. But now it's kind of like listening, letting him know that no matter what, I'm there, we're gonna do it together, but then marinating on it and figuring out the best time to share, the best time that he'll be willing to receive the information, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When he's super excited about an idea, about taking over the world, and all these things, what I'm not taking over the world, but what I mean? By influencing the world.
Yes.
On that high, and God's given him this big vision, that's not the time for me to like come with a machete and like cut that from under his feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sorry to bust the bubble, buddy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But later on, when we're talking about how these things will happen, I'll be like, well, okay, well, are you willing to, give up every Saturday for the next 2 years to do like this new aspect of ministry that you're adding on? And he'll be like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's a family day. I'm like, okay, well, do you think this can be added to, or I don't know, incorporated into something that we're already doing? And then he'll be like, yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like just shifting it, just trying to figure out a way that it won't take away from our family, because like that's the most important thing for us. We have this ministry for everybody else, but that ministry will be nothing if our family is crumbling, if I'm suffering, or if our children are suffering from it.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot, don't we? Where people are doing great in ministry, and all of a sudden it's like, no, we're not great.
Yeah, we're not great.
Yeah. And so it's just being mindful of the time, what you're doing, what you're investing in, make sure that you guys are good. And that's one thing I'm always like, if I don't feel like doing something, I don't go on a video. I don't do it if I'm not in the right space, because I don't want to give off that, because my face will show it when I'm doing something. Like, my face just does whatever it does, and people can feel it.
Yeah. And but that's why communication, that's why God is so wonderful, because he doesn't place everything within one person. We need each other.
Yes.
We absolutely need each other. If God gave me everything, I wouldn't need Amy. If he gave her everything, she wouldn't need me.
Right.
We need each other in order to fulfill the mission, because everybody has a purpose. I don't care what what anybody says. Everybody, God created everybody with a purpose. When you look at grass, if grass has a purpose, if dust has a purpose, then what's our purpose? Let's pursue that. And then in marriage, we have the same purpose. It's not me having this vision and then Amy has this vision. That's the vision, right? It's us having the exact same purpose. How do we now fulfill that mission? Well, in order to do that, we have to become one person. And that's what it pushes you towards, is this constant becoming one person in full alignment with each other and God. And that's where like everything happens. That's where everything happens.
I love that. And as we're talking about becoming one, a lot of we hear this often about submission. Um, the dreaded word.
Mm.
How does that look like in your marriage? Because obviously people think like submission is just like the man's telling the woman what to do and you have to listen to what I say. Don't ask me no questions. Just do what I say, woman.
Yeah.
For me, I know that's not what it means, but how does that work in your guys' situation, and how do you view submission?
He's the spiritual head of our family. I'll just say that, he's leading us. His job is to make sure that we get to heaven. He keeps us on the straight and narrow in that aspect. My job is to help him out with that. And his job is not to stomp on me, not to, try to overtake me, but yeah, I have to submit to that. I have to submit to that he has the best intention for us. And I've had people tell me, you get people commenting to you too, on what they project. People have told me that I'm not a submissive wife because I'm not a quiet person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Point a finger and say, well, you're not submissive. Yes, I am. I'm submissive to my husband and what he has to say. I'm not submissive to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's why I'm glad that you're out there, you're a face, I'm out there, so people can see that, you can fight for the Lord. You can be out there fighting for your family, and be submissive to your wife and see that that's okay. Because again, it's something that the world is trying to make women not do, and that's the work of the enemy. We're inundated to be bosses. We're inundated to that's what I am. I am in the workplace, and I am strong in what I do. But there's a softness and there's a softness in submission. You know what I mean? It is a beautiful thing, and the world tries to make it like the S word.
Yeah, right. And I feel like people think submission is like you don't have a voice. You can't. If a partner says, "Oh, no, we need to buy this car tomorrow," people think you just have to be like, "Yeah, okay." It's not like you can have a say in certain things.
And you know what, Sharon, it's like and that's why I push God and Jesus on everybody. Not, everybody who calls me, who wants to DM me. I'm like, I can only tell you what works for me. Because when Amy says, okay, babe, after me and her come and we'll sit and we'll talk and we're trying to think about something to do. And she's like, okay, well, whatever you do, I follow you. That puts a responsibility on me to make the right choice. So then who do I go to? Now I have to go to Christ. Now I have to talk to the Holy Spirit. I have to read my Bible. I'm like, Lord, please help me to make the right decision. Please help me to make the right decision. She's not fighting me. She's like, hey, babe, this is what I think. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm telling her what I think. And then we're coming together. But she's like, ultimately, whatever you decide, I follow you. And I'm like, okay, Lord. Okay. And really what submission and sacrifice, because I think men don't focus on their role, right? People talk about roles in marriage, but a role is given by an authority. A boss gives the role to the employee, right? So what is my role? Well, my role is a sacrifice, right? It's a sacrifice. And in order to be able to do that, it says to love your wife, to sacrifice for your wife, and love your wife like Christ loved the church. So you have to study Jesus to understand what that even means. And the first thing that Jesus did at the age of 12, although he knew that he was supposed to be about his father's business, was he became humble. And he still followed his mother and father and left the synagogue. The same thing happened with John the Baptist, where with John the Baptist, John the Baptist said, wait a minute, you are supposed to be baptizing me, not me baptizing you. And Jesus said, let it be so, because this is the right order of things. So if Jesus understood that, how can I not understand about the person that he's given me to have this wonderful marriage?
Right, that's a good point.
I'm always humble, like, Lord, you have given her the wisdom that I don't have. You know,
Yeah.
so how in the world can I take this and take what she said, understanding that her wisdom helps me close the gap, and then
Mhm.
how can I take that and use that? That's really the big thing for me.
Right, right. So with Amy, have you always been submissive, or was it something that you've had to kind of learn along this journey?
That's something that I had to learn along this journey, girl. And I
Yeah.
had to learn what it meant, because it's like, you know, when you were bringing it up, you're like, submission. That's how I was. You know what I mean? Um, it doesn't, just because of what it means for the, I'm so sorry.
I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine, honestly.
Because
Let him play.
because of what the world has made it into.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be submissive. Like, come on, I'm a strong woman. And like I said, when we got married,
She was. I like that though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciated your independence, and you weren't just gonna allow me just to come and tell you something.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get that twisted into people, you know, me saying I was a strong woman before doesn't mean I'm not a strong woman now.
You're
It's
stronger.
a strength
Mhm.
in submission.
Mhm.
And so yeah, no, I didn't go into marriage
Mhm.
um like as a submissive wife. I came into marriage as a respectful wife.
Yes.
Like I
Right.
respected
Yeah.
my husband.
Yeah.
I in the home, outside the home.
Mhm.
But being respectful is different than being submissive.
Very well said.
You know what I mean? Being submissive, like I said earlier, doesn't mean being a doormat, but it means accepting leadership and
True.
and yeah, just being
But see, I also accept your leadership too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like when you really break it down, it's just a way for you to become one person.
yeah.
I respect her leadership. That's why there's some things that she's better at than me. You
Well,
got it.
that's what it says, where the man's help me. We are
Yes.
in some ways, in certain things,
Mhm.
whatever areas that you're lacking, she's gonna fill that in. So,
Yeah.
like you said, you have to just be open to that and not think like, I'm the man. I know what I'm talking about. Don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I got this figured out. So it's that coming together and knowing that when one is weak, that's when you fill in and things like that, you know?
Yes.
And I know we have sisters in Christ coming from different walks of life who are not blessed in the situation where their husband was loving in the transition phase. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
They were like me in the beginning. You know, they might have tried to be a little, you know, bulldoze over them. I know that's difficult, but it takes both.
It does.
It takes the husband and the wife.
It does.
And I was just blessed that I had a husband who just walked along beside me with it. He learned his place and I learned my place.
Yeah.
And we're working in that. And it's actually a beautiful thing. That's why now, even in the beginning when we started with the podcast, when I was talking about submission, I was kind of cringing, but it's a word. It's just a word put on what I'm doing. It's not.
Yeah.
mean.
I think I'm where kind of where you are. Like I'm walking that submission road because I was like you, where I was just very strong. I'm like, don't tell me what to do, sort of thing. But to be fair, he never told me what to do anyway.
Right.
But I was just that headstrong person. Like if I want to do something, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
That's how I was in the beginning of our marriage. I would just be like, if I want to go out, I'll tell you I'm going out, but I don't need your permission to go out.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. And looking back, that was not good because if I knew these things, I would have saved us a lot of heartache, a lot of arguments, because I saw it as a way of him just trying to stop me from having fun, which wasn't the case. It's like I was putting my friends more on a pedestal than I was him.
Yeah.
You know, so if a friend was like, "Oh, let's go out," I wasn't like, "Oh, are we doing anything this Saturday?" I would just be like, "Yeah, I'm coming."
Yeah.
But I didn't speak to him about it, and he would get annoyed with that, and I never got that. But now I'm further along down the line. I understand it now.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more like, okay, so and so has messaged me. Is it okay if I can go or not? Or are we doing something? And I'm like, yeah, you do if you want to. And most of the time, it's like, yeah, do it. But it's just that respecting the other person you're in a relationship with. That like, I'm not just gonna go out like we're roommates.
Yeah. And it's a vice versa thing
Oh, yeah.
too. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I just can't up and leave when I want to leave either. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, babe, you know, they want to meet up for wings or something. What's going on here? And then she'll
Yeah.
say, well, just look at the calendar.
Yeah, I'll
We're
be like,
good.
did you check the calendar? Because if
I'm
it's
like,
not on
"Nah,
the
I haven't checked the
calendar, it
calendar."
doesn't
You
exist.
do that.
So then I go check it out. I'm like, nah, we're good. But it is that respect thing. And you know, a great man marries a great woman anyway, you
Mhm.
know, and a strong man will marry a strong woman. You
Mhm.
know, it's understanding how to use that strength to fulfill your purpose, right?
Mm.
And then it's not a fight, you know, between each other. Yes, people people look at it and say, okay, well, the man is the head. Yeah, but you have to understand the structure of the head anyway. The head is nothing without the body, right?
Right.
Have you ever seen a head by itself? Well, usually that person's dead. So,
Exactly.
you know, the head is nothing without the body. Everything works in
Mm.
order. That's how God made it. And when the head tries to move without the body, well, we can only imagine what happens there. And the body can't move without the head. But you're just one body. You're just one person. And when we can get to that point where it's like, hey, it's not about these words, it's about what God wants, you know,
Yes.
for me. And then Amy saying the same thing for her. I'm not focusing on her submission. I'm focusing on my own submission.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I focus on my own submission to God. God, am I doing right? Am I being the husband and the father that you need me to be? You know, and because I focus on my role that God gave me, which is to sacrifice, submit to him and to sacrifice for my wife and for my family, you know, it makes things better because I'm not focusing on women submit. No, why? No,
Yeah.
you know, when men get like this, what sometimes they miss is there's a lot of insecurities within us where we're like now we feel powerful and we want to overpower somebody, but it's more so of an insecurity. The
Right.
the greatest I feel like the greatest leader is not some CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but I feel like the
Mhm.
greatest leader is a man who can, you know, have a family where the wife willingly submits because she sees who he follows. She sees what he's
Mhm.
about. You know, there's a lot of great men who have billions of dollars, but they've been married 4 or 5 times. You know,
Yeah.
it's how can I get my wife to look at me and say, "Wow, you are a great leader." Well, I'm not going to force that. It has
Yeah.
to come from the God inside of her. So,
And I guess you see how she talks about you to other people.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you know, it's because you're gonna brag on your husband when your husband's great.
yeah.
So the ones that are not doing it, they're the ones in the coffee shops like, well, you don't know what he did last night. He just did it. You know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's sometimes you don't need to yeah, do much, but it's like how they speak about you when you're not there.
Mm,
That's a telltale sign of things.
that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, so what is one can you share with us 1 to 2 things that have contributed to the success of your marriage? I know you're saying you're not where you want to be, but I see you guys as a successful marriage.
I'll just give one. Turning, you know, not giving Satan access through entertainment and media.
Right.
We don't watch TV like that, you know, so we can sit on the couch and talk for hours. We don't have a remote. We don't have a fire stick. We don't have anything like that. If we want to watch a family movie, so we have family movie nights, right? Where
Uh-huh.
it's the whole family thing. If we want to do that, Sharon, we have an HDMI cord that we have to plug into the
The laptop.
laptop, and we got to go put all these things in. It takes about
Where
15.
do you guys live?
Look,
That's great though. That's great.
it is something that when we sit on the couch and we're in the living room, we're actually living in the room. We are
Mhm.
not just bypassing time because, you know, I used to think that it was a time thing, but my daughter has the same amount of time that I do, and she's only 7 months old. It's an
Yeah.
energy thing, right? We waste a lot of energy. So who's getting your energy? Well, I can give it to the movies or to the TV or to a show or to sports, or I can give it to my wife. My wife can get my energy. My kids can get my energy. So for me, it was removing those distractions and that access that Satan can have to me through
Yeah.
movies or through entertainment or even sports or something like that.
So how long ago did you make this decision?
let me give a funny story. Excuse me. It's kind of been rolling
Yeah.
Okay.
for a few years. Excuse me. But I came home from work one day. I was like, babe, where's the remote?
So about that.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
And he threw it away.
Yeah.
And go ahead and
I threw it away. I threw away the remotes. I threw away the fire sticks. I threw it all away because, I was just in tune with God and said, you got to get rid of these distractions. You have to get rid of these distractions. If y'all want the marriage and the family that you desire, stop
Mm,
getting distracted. Stop letting Satan have access to you through these shows and through music and through entertainment and things of that nature. So that's when I was like, okay, what do I need to do? See, that was the hard part because I didn't want to do it. And
right.
you know what? I wanted to say, hey, Amy, God, I was talking to God and I feel like he was telling me to put away the remotes. But I knew that Amy would have been like, well, no, because we like shows, watching shows together, right? So that's why I did it before she got home, because I
Right.
was actually looking at her as a way for an out for me.
Okay. Okay.
I
We do
did
that with a lot of things. We do that.
Yeah, I wanted it out,
Um,
but that changed so much in the last 4 years where we're like, we just talk. We just talk and we just communicate and we just love each other because we spend our energy communicating and talking instead of letting somebody talk to us. So that to me, that's been the biggest thing for me. What about you, babe?
sing. I'm so sorry.
Your throat?
No,
Yeah.
it's all right. Maybe it was a little bit funny.
Yeah, I came in. I live in Virginia, so there's a lot of pollen. And I was telling you
Mm,
earlier that I didn't think I had allergies, but I think I have allergies now.
Yeah.
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 Which is,
Oh, you okay now?
I think so.
It comes and goes.
Mhm.
It comes
Oh,
and
good. So, what about you, Amy? Is there anything that you can think that's contributed to the success?
Oh my goodness. Just letting go. Like I said, how I was in the beginning of the marriage.
Hmm.
Finding peace in partnership. Not feeling like I have to do everything on my own.
goes.
Yeah.
Because there were phases. We were both immature. There were phases where I thought that
Absolutely.
I always had to, I always had to have a job because just in case this might happen, like I have to hold this down. Um,
Right.
or, just feeling like I had to have my own just in case something happened. And that's all,
Mhm.
those veils are all torn down now
Mm.
because there's just such a strong partnership.
Yeah.
So there's peace in letting go, peace in submission, and then peace in partnership.
Mm.
Ah, yeah,
Mhm.
because that's so true. We do grow up getting told that, oh, as a woman, you need to have your own little account just in case, so you don't get caught by surprise. But I think that's also building distrust when you do that. You have that in the back of your mind, like, oh,
Mm.
what if this happens? But then you're not going all in.
Yeah.
Yep.
You as a woman, you're not gonna-
But you know what, Sharon, that comes from the older generation. That's why people get mad at me because they feel like sometimes I'm hard on men, but it's not. I'm like, no, I love us. I love this generation of men because I feel like we have a chance to do what our fathers and our grandfathers didn't do, which was they made the woman feel second nature to them, right?
Mm,
I grew up in a home where my mom was the seventh child. She only helped how my dad wanted her to help. She wasn't appreciated. She
yeah,
wasn't made to feel important or anything else. It was just, hey, what can you do for me? And that's it. Right.
yeah,
And I talked to my dad one time and he said, well, that's what he saw. And for me, I'm like, I'm not going to have that type of marriage. But so I understand why women were teaching their daughters and the daughters were looking at their mother saying, I don't want that. The mothers are teaching their daughters, don't depend on the man, but they're going off of their experience from their man and they've been hurt. And what the enemy has done is he's taken this thought and he has advanced it globally. And
yeah,
that's why I feel like us men and women, all of us have a chance now to show everybody what God intended for it to be anyway, because Amy can make just as much, if not more money than I can.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if headship is based off of the economy, then there's a lot of men that you're not the head at all. But we
Yeah.
have the chance to really get back to the garden. That's why I love talking about the garden.
Mm.
Because everything is spiritual and we live in a physical world, but the limitless energy that we have is spiritual. The body dies, right?
Yes.
So we have to tap into the spiritual world in which God created for us to be able to live effectively, but effectively together. And
Mm.
that's why whenever women are talking about being independent, I'm like, you know what? I understand, because if I was in your situation, I would think the same way that you do. So it's understanding that they came from a place in which it caused them to develop this opinion. And the only way for me to get somebody's opinion is to change is not to tell them that they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
Try to understand where they're coming from so we can have that conversation and say, but you know what, there is better. Maybe
Mm.
I can show you better. Maybe this isn't the time, but maybe I can plant that seed.
Mm. That's so good. And Amy, what would you say to women that's like you just talking about Apollo's just said, like, you could make more than he could, than him in this world. What do you say to women that say, I'm not going to submit to a man that earns less than me? I'm the breadwinner, so I'm not going to submit to him. Or he's not spiritually strong, or he's an unbeliever, like Mike. Well, no, Tommy is a believer, but he's not born again.
Right.
So if it's like in my situation, I'm not going to submit to him because he doesn't believe, he doesn't go to church, he doesn't pray like I do. What would you say to those kind of women?
It's hard. I would say you got to open your Bible.
Mm.
There's only so much I could say, you know what I mean? I can live by example, but you have to open the word. And if it doesn't convict you, how is your walk? You have to work on yourself first. So,
Amen.
yeah.
Wow. That's great.
Like Apollo says, sometimes my thought is so short, but that's all
powerful.
I'll be like,
No, it's true. It is true, because if it doesn't convict us, then either our conscience is seared or we're just trying to make an excuse for not doing that thing.
You start from square one. If you don't feel convicted when you read the word, you just need to strengthen your walk. Start with square one. You need to get aligned with the source, which is the Father. So
yeah.
And you know what, Sharon? But that's also, when I look at it and this is how we see the wives leading, right? Because the one who's in an emotional state is the one who can't lead. And when y'all are saying, hey, you know what, maybe you aren't a believer, but I am, so I'm going to lead you into being the leader and the head of the home. That's leadership.
Yeah.
And what men don't see sometimes is that we're being led. Amy has led me in many places. Like, I said, it was, Amy came from a different background. So I'm telling her about the word. I'm telling her about these things. And she was just like, oh, yeah. And she was just agreeing with everything I said. And one day I said, babe, you can't agree to everything I say because you don't know if I'm telling you the truth. You have to read it for yourself. A year later, Sharon, she comes to me and she says this: I did it. I said, you did what? She said, I read the Bible. I said, you read the whole thing? She was like, yes, I read the whole thing. I had never read the entire Bible before she came and said that. And then it was something that was activated within me where Holy Spirit was like, she knows more of the word than you do. How can you spiritually lead her if you don't even know all of the word? And I dug in, but she had to lead me into that understanding.
Yeah.
All are absolute leaders because y'all are us. Like Eve came out of Adam. Adam and Eve are one person. Man is a species. We're not two really different people. We just have two different roles based off of our design so the world can continue to function, right? But we're really the same person. That's why when we become one flesh, what do? We come back to being one person in the flesh. So she's a leader.
Jeez. Wow, that's amazing. And the thing is, like, you could have been like a prideful man, right, Amy? I see. It's like, you could have been so prideful and be like, oh, she read the Bible, so
Right.
And that wouldn't have moved you, and you could just carry on with your day. But that kind of fired you up to like, no, I need to get on this and be that man and be that leader.
Yeah.
So that's very good. Like, it's a perfect example how marriages can like what you were saying, you have that healthy competition in the marriage where like, okay, she did it. I'm sure I can do it. Let's do this.
Yes.
For a
Something-
while, it was funny because when he would tell the story, he would go, "Yeah, she came to me and she told me she read the Bible," and then he'd be like, "Well, I've read it. I've read it all the way through more times than her now." But that's how he used to tell the story.
Well, there's that competition, isn't it?
Yeah, now I've done it more, but yeah, she started it.
Well, she did it first, but I did it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it helped me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I think about the helpmate. You don't ask for help for somebody who can't lead you into a certain place. If I'm picking up something heavy, I'm not gonna ask my 7-month-old daughter to help me. She can't. I'm gonna ask someone who's as strong or stronger than me in that area for help because I can't do it by myself.
Right.
And that's the beauty of marriage. Marriage is a way for us to not be alone and to be able to continue to develop all throughout life, and in a life where we don't have to do it by ourselves. Because we weren't built to do anything alone. When Eve was here, she was already a companion to Adam. Adam hated being alone.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good
Really?
it wasn't a good thing.
Yeah.
So, but when you understand that out of Adam came Eve, that means that Eve was Adam. So once I started to understand that, I'm like, oh, she's no different than me. She has what I need because she is me, and God didn't give me everything because I wouldn't need her. So we close that gap when
Right.
we just say, okay, Lord, you got it. Pride comes before destruction, but
Yes.
humility comes before honor. So if we want to be destroyed, be prideful. If we want God to honor us, be humble. So it's like, okay, Lord, let me remove myself from the situation. You lead. I'm going to listen to my wife. I'm going to see where her gifts are, and I'm going to submit to those gifts and her authority too, right?
Yeah.
And her leadership. When she tells me something, when I listen, I'm submitting to her authority in the role that God gave to her. And then when I take what she said and then I apply it, that's how you know you listen to somebody, when you apply it.
That's true.
It's like, okay, all right, God, I got you. I got you. So
Amy's like, yes.
nah, she's
Gotta listen to me.
yeah.
You can
No, and actually, I want another question, Paulus, before we kind of wrap this up. To the men that are struggling with women, let's say, that won't submit, because I see these comments a lot as well, like, oh, my wife doesn't submit to me, she doesn't listen to me, she's hard-headed. And a lot of them have actually said, some comments I've seen, I've left her because she was just so difficult, so headstrong.
Yeah.
How can you advise a man in that situation?
I would say first you have to humble yourself before God, because if not, it's going to be too much pride. Men, we become so prideful, which makes us our own God, and then we make decisions based off of that. And those decisions are always emotional decisions, right? So first you have to become humble, and then remember why you married her. Remember who she is. That's the thing. God wants us to remember. So it's remembering who she truly is, and then go find her. It says he who finds a wife finds a good thing. The person that you married is in there. What have you done, right? I had to look at myself. What have I done to get her to this place? Because I've had a lot of men, Sharon, DM me and say, I have a rebellious wife. I have all of these different things. My wife is crazy. I said, well, there's only two ways that to happen. Either she was born crazy and you married her anyway, or you turned her crazy. What have you done to get her to this point? And then once I start saying that to the men, it's like they start to reflect on some of the things that they've done. And I'm like, hey, you know what? We've all made mistakes. You're no different than I am. But you have to humble yourself before God, so God can say, okay, now that you've come to the end of yourself, I can begin, but I'm not going to work on her. I got to work on you. And then you go find her. You go draw out who she is and who you know that she is, because there's been some damage. Get through to the spirit of her. Don't talk to her flesh. We get caught up in talking to the flesh of a person. No, talk to her spirit. How can I communicate to your spirit and let your spirit hear me and say, hey, Come here.
My spirit said, "Hey, boo."
What up? What up?
I love that. No, that's so true. That is so true because it is a thing. Like me and Amy were saying, like we grown up on what's that song that Destiny's Child, the Independent Woman song? And I don't need a man to do this and all that kind of stuff. I can buy my own things.
Yeah.
It's just in the culture and also even upbringing. Seeing women just be the ones that are just like more domineering in the bringing up the children and just in the home as well. It's kind of a thing that kind of rubs off on us. So it is something that I guess like what you're saying is just looking inwardly as well, say, is it me? Because that's a good place to start. It's a very humble place to start. Like, is it me? Have I done anything? If not, let's dive deeper and see where is this coming from and leaning on the Holy Spirit. I guess that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Help you through that. Right. So yeah, if anyone is going through that, just do those steps and it will be a challenge. It's because obviously I know you guys are here where you are. I'm sure there was times where you were thinking like, is this gonna be like this all the time?
Right.
Yes, absolutely. The difference between the obstacle and the opportunity is just the way you prepare for it, right? If you prepare for it, it's an opportunity. If not, it's just an obstacle, right? Something that you have to overcome. But everything in itself that God has created, even the obstacles aren't bad because they're meant for you to overcome them. And then once you overcome them, now you've become somebody that overcame that obstacle. So you grow. Everything's about growing. Even the obstacles are there. Obstacles are a good thing to me because I'm like, okay, well, now that this means now that this obstacle is here, that I need to become somebody that is strong enough to overcome this obstacle. So it's just you're just constantly going up. And that's why, marriage is a beautiful thing because I'm not by myself. I have to become somebody all the time because we're both constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah.
Causing us to have to overcome so many different things. And you just continue to grow.
I think the easiest thing to do in marriage and in situation when you're going through something is to blame the other person because it takes the responsibility off of you. So like when you really sit there and you say, well, it's my part in this, it's just like so humbling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important. Like you can't expect somebody else to either, number one, understand what they're doing wrong or try to change if you don't see what you're doing wrong in it and you don't start to change yourself. A lot of the times I'll see Apollos make a change, right? And it's easier to focus on what he's done wrong than the things that he's changed and doing right.
Yeah.
And how would it feel on the other foot? Like I've been doing this, like, and you haven't noticed, but you're focusing on what I did wrong. So you have to do what you expect done unto yourself.
I love you talk like that.
Yeah.
Talk nice to me.
Okay, we better wrap this up and get you guys.
Talk nice to me.
Oh no, I love that, guys, because it's just good to just have you guys be so transparent and open about your journey. I really feel like we need a part 2 for this. There's more there's so many more questions that I had, but I looked at the time. It's like, oh my gosh, it's already almost 2 hours on this. But I love that you guys were willing and open to share, what the word says, because ultimately it is about us being obedient to the word. Because once we stay aligned and focused on the word, everything will fall in place. It will be a challenge. There is a challenge. There are challenges, like you guys pointed out, but the outcome and the result is far greater than those challenges. I'm sure when you look back, you think, why were we arguing about it? Why was that so difficult? Why did we, go through that? But I think that builds that that kind of trust in any marriage. When you go through that we fight, we argue, but that is part of it. That's part of us building that resilience and that's the muscle that we need.
There you go.
And also to share it with us, because I'm still learning.
Yeah, we all are. And that's the beauty about it, that we have so much more to learn. And that's exciting when I'm like, babe, we're not even close. I'm like, man, there's so much more for us. There's so much further for us to go. Because if God just gave you a finished product, if I was already finished, then I wouldn't be with Amy. If she was already finished, she wouldn't be with me. There's really no point for us to be here if we've already fulfilled everything we were sent here to do. So
Exactly.
I thank God that He gives us time and the energy to always, grow and become. Because if you look at it, Sharon, the only species that does not reach their full potential are humans. A tree does
Mm,
not stop growing until it's finished.
that's
We
true.
have the free will that God has given us to say, you know what, God, I'm done. I'm done
Yes.
growing. I'm good right here. And
Yeah.
that's a hard life, to have. So we don't want that. And it's like, let's just keep pushing. Let's keep pushing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. And I want to reach my potential. So I'm going to be like, Lord, whatever you need to do, keep growing me, keep pruning those dead things. If it's not serving me well, help me to prune it. And I think that's how we should look at marriage as well. Like if there's something that's not serving us,
Mm,
we should be like, God, highlight that thing so we
mm,
can cut it off so
that's
that we can grow and bloom as you want us to. So yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to watch this back again and just get some more wisdom from this because
yeah.
you guys always
Thank
come
you,
through.
For having us. We were so excited about this
Sharon. Yeah,
today.
this is
No,
this
I
is
think when I first met you guys on social media, on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, I love you guys. I love them because I think it was a video of you two together. I can't remember because I literally watched so much stuff of you guys. But I saw one of them, I think it was on my explore page, and I
Mhm.
just clicked on it. I was like, okay, and I just binge watched all your shorts and reels. I was like,
Yeah,
I
wow.
like them, and I followed you on YouTube, and I watched most of your videos as well. So thank you for being here and sharing it. And you gotta love the internet, right?
I know. Thank God, because this is so beautiful.
Just
Yeah,
that relationship, how quickly y'all just connected. I just like, yeah, God, technology is amazing.
Look,
it's
Technology.
I can't
amazing,
believe that we can sit at a coffee shop, you and I,
right?
and just
I
talk.
know.
What about me and Tommy? What
I
are we
mean,
doing?
yeah, y'all can go to the
Yes.
shop too.
I think yeah, we need to get you guys together as well. Honestly, I think you guys will get on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Yeah, but thank you again so much, guys, for being here and sharing your wisdom. We're definitely gonna get a part two, please.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Just let us know when.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if you guys want to get in contact with Mending Eden, I'll put the information in the description box. And can you please tell us about your course that you've got actually?
Absolutely. So it is a 90-day course because marriage is something you have to do every day. You have to
Mm,
do it every single day. You have to be intentional and aware every single day. And the Holy Spirit has had us to create this course where the very first week you're talking about your past. You are, really diving deep with each other, but you're also praying together. You're reading the Bible together. You're doing
mm,
relationship activities, something as simple as, kissing for 30 seconds. You would be
wow.
surprised how many couples don't kiss intentionally for 30 seconds without nothing, you don't want nothing from it. Or
Right,
hug for
right.
a little bit, or we really want to be intentional about the marriage. So we go from the past in the first week to the final week 12, of you creating a 5-year vision for your marriage together.
Wow.
So it's a 90-day journey where we talk about the past, but we leave it there. Now we just learn from it and we educate ourselves on it, and we build from that to where week 12, we're building a 5-year vision plan.
Okay. So and this is something that you've just started, of course, and you do it on Zoom.
Yeah, so the people can go to mendingeden.com, and there's two courses. We have one where we have 12 videos throughout, right? So it's each week you get a video to kind of tell you about the course, what kind of things that you need to do. But we also have, that one is 198, but we have not a cheaper version, but how would you say that word? You said it's not cheap. A less
A bit
expensive version, because there are some people who just don't have it financially, and we
yeah.
want to be able to reach everybody. And that one is 47. You get the same things. It's just the first three weeks is just with the videos. The rest of it is just a course, but you are drawing the answers out from each other throughout the entire process. And we have this couple who's finishing up actually this week, so we can't wait to really be able to bring them on and let everybody hear their experience with it. But it's 90 days straight. It's marriage is an everyday thing, so you're building that muscle to be intentional every single day. And we just create the environment with the blueprint, but that's it. The does the work.
I think we might have to come on there as well then.
It's good, Sharon. It's really good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you
for being here. I can see the kids are ready for the mommy and daddy, and I will let you guys head on.
Thank you.
They've been so good. They've been so good.
Yeah. Thank you. I just want to say thank you again. We appreciate just your friendship before anything and everything, but also, having us on to really, just spread the kingdom. Yeah. And marriage. Okay. And Amara's like, Dad, you're done. You're done. But yeah, thank you, Sharon.
No, honestly, I just pray that God, does his thing and just spreads it to the right people that need to see this. Because obviously, like you say, your sentiment, when we fix
marriage,
we fix everything. And I believe that 100% will fix every single thing. And hopefully the generations to come will benefit from us doing the work.
Amen.
So we need to do hard work so that they can glide through it. Like my mommy and daddy did the work, so I know what to do now.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the aim and goal here.
Thank you for having us.
No problem at all. See you later.
Say bye. I'll be sleeping.
Oh. See you later.